There's only one boss in this place, and that's me. The HNIC.
Everybody, welcome to our Head Nerds in Charge Creator Interview Series. Joining me today on the dispatch is Q from Gadgets and Geekery. Q, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is awesome. So you and I have talked a lot through Instagram chat, Facebook chat, stuff like that. But this is really our first time really talking to each other. We've been in a few group video calls together for Head Nerds in Charge, but this is really our first time kind of hanging out together. So thank you for taking the chance on this.
No problem. I'm glad to see your shining face, and I love your glasses.
Thank you. I just think I may need to order some different colors because I've had the red for a while now.
Okay.
So anyway, welcome. Let's start by telling everybody a bit about yourself, your background. Just give your origin story.
Okay. Well, basically, I have been a self-taught artist since I was 5 years old. So I pretty much got that superpower from my mother. She used to drop portraits of us when we were babies and while we were asleep. So she has some beautiful, photorealistic drawings of us as babies.
Oh, wow.
So life gets in the way, and she kind of lost that talent, and then I kind of picked up the mantle. So I had been drawing all my life, and so she used to give me the funny papers from my local newspaper. And I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Look at all the colors, look at all the different styles. And I've said before, they weren't that funny. It was just basically the different styles. I was like, I didn't know people could draw like this, outside of Bugs Bunny. I was like, what is this? This isn't Bugs Bunny. This is fabulous. So that led me down the road of my love for comic books. And then one summer in elementary school, I had a friend, his father gave him a huge U-Haul box full of comic books. And they were just there. His father wasn't there. He just dropped it off. So we was like, what is this? So we covered the floors of the house with the comic books and took our time reading them that summer. Then we were like, okay, we're done with these. We went to the library around the corner and read what they had. And that just sent me down the road. And I knocked into anime and gaming along the way. And then I'm here.
That's awesome. So you've always kind of been a nerd then.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite genre of comic books or nerddom?
Well, when I was in high school, I found a comic book shop. I went to a performing and visual arts high school in downtown Dallas. So there was a comic book shop around the corner, and I can't remember the name of it. I just found it by chance, and I fell into the indie comics or the not so popular comics of Top Cow and Dark Horse and all of that. So the mainstream I really wasn't into. It was those dark and gritty human-based stories that I liked.
I love that.
So that's why I like you guys so much, because you find all the good indie comics.
We try at least,
Yeah.
Sometimes we find some bad ones too.
That's on both ends. The popular end, there's some bad ones. On the the not so known ones. Yeah.
That's true. So what are you most into now? I see a lot of anime coming from you. Are you?
Yeah, I've been super into that. And I tell people, I'm like, hey, I always date myself, but I don't care. I look fabulous. But
Exactly.
I always ask people, hey, have you ever heard of liquid television that used to come on MTV back in the 90s? And I want to say that's really what put me down the anime road, because I saw a snippet of Ninja Scroll. And I was like, I got to figure out what this is. So, at the end of the show, they roll the credits and it shows you, who produced what and what's the title of it. And so I found it at Blockbuster Music, the VHS, and I was in love. And so I just couldn't stop after then. So that's been a part of my life. And I used to get embarrassed, especially with my husband. And we've been together 11 years now. But in the beginning, I was like, do I have to hide this from him? He's not the kind of guy. He's going to think I'm weird. And now it's just whatever. You just watching your cartoons. I'm like, they're not cartoons. It's anime.
Watch your words, son.
I will end this shit today. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I curse here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Oh, that's so funny with liquid television. I was just having a conversation. You and I are not that far apart in age.
Okay.
And we both look fabulous, I would say.
Yes, we do.
Well, having a conversation about that the other day, about all the cool things that used to come on liquid television and the exposure that it gave a lot of things that I at least wouldn't have otherwise seen. That's cool.
Yeah.
So the host of Gadgets and Geekery, fill people in on that.
Yeah, so I want to say maybe in 2014. I come from radio, so I worked on the back end of radio. I wasn't a voice or a face or anything. So I was graphic designer there. So in my downtime, I would look up gadgets. Spending money I shouldn't have been spending. So I'm looking up all these different gadgets, and I have all my boxes shipped to work. So the people I work was like, what are you buying? There's always something coming here. What is this? So I was like, okay, let me show you what I bought. I didn't even know I needed this. Let me tell you about it. You may need it too. So one of my coworkers was like, you should write a blog. Like, you buy a lot of shit and people should know about it. I was like, you're right. And then we used to talk about different movies and TV shows. So I was like, I'll just, give my spin and my idea and my little goofy antidotes on, geek culture. And that's what I started doing. So shortly after that, the podcast came. But the horrible, funny story about that is I was like, okay, I work at a radio station and this shit is hard. I can't to do this by myself. And I did no research. I'm going to tell you, never do that. I did no research. I was like, oh, yeah, I use Audacity for the radio station all the time. This will be fine. No, it's hard talking by yourself for an hour. So I kind of let it fall through the cracks. And then the pandemic came. And I was like, what the hell else are you doing? So I started it back up again all those years later, back in March. So I'm trying to keep it going, but I'm taking a sabbatical. See?
It is hard, isn't it? That's why, having guests makes it easy because then you guys do all the talking for me,
Exactly. I know. I'm like on the opposite end now. And I'm like, I want to answer the question. I don't want to answer the questions. I want to ask them. So yeah, it's really hard, but it's easier. Like you said, with the guests or a few guests, and time just flies by like that. And you'll tell them, hey, maybe 30, 45 minutes and it's almost 2 hours in. When it's you can barely scrape out 15.
That's so true. That is so true. I'll go on my Instagram live sometimes, be like, oh, I've been talking for 20 minutes. And I look at the little clock and it's been like 2. Oh, shit.
Yeah. I'm terrified to do a live because that's the way I feel it would pull off.
Yep. Okay, so we've talked about your art, and you do commissions also. I've seen you working on some of those, and you recently began working with an author on illustrating a graphic novel. Tell us more about your art first in general, and how people can find you and commission you and all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah. So I've been doing art, like I said, forever. Paid as a paid graphic designer. I've been doing that for the last maybe 15, 20 years. So I have a separate Instagram called Artists for Hire. So I mostly do graphics instead of character design or original characters. So I was like, that's really where I started and that's my love. So I'm going to get back to that. So that's why I was saying around November, December of last year, hey, I'm going to get back into these commissions. You guys keep your eyes open. Would you be interested? So I did a poll and it turned out great. So people was like, yeah, I'll be down. Because I put the picture of the lady, I named her already. It was Madison Blue. So a lot of people like her. So I was like, okay, so it's basically going to be commissions where I draw things and then you buy them. Because the flip side of that is when you do open commissions, basically where somebody sends you an idea, they give you the references. It's kind of hard because people see it. You give them a sketch out basically. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. And then you start filling in the details and people want to change things. And I'm the kind of person, I want to make everybody happy, but I'm like, no. You get 3 revisions, and then even that is a headache. And then I don't want people to feel like I'm taking their money. Like, hey, you take it or you leave it. So now I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to draw stuff, and then you can buy it.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's such a good idea. Because one of my questions is going to be still, tell us a little bit about working with clients, because there's a lot of aspiring comic book writers out there who watch the show and constantly looking for artists and. Like they a lot of times I've found with speaking with artists, a lot of writers or just clients in general don't know how to work and communicate with an artist. So why don't you give kind of some tips for people on how to be a good client?
Okay. Well, number 1, I would say realistically know what your budget is. Mm-hmm. Don't start at the bottom. You need to start high. And if somebody quotes you lower than that, then praise the gods. But don't come in saying, okay, yeah, I want you to do this 20-page comic book. And all I got is like, I don't know, $70 a page. Okay. No. It's not gonna. You just can't tell me what you're gonna pay. That's kind of low. And I broke it down a couple of months ago. Like when you just reach out to one artist to do your whole book, you got to break that down into different positions that will be at a Marvel or a DC. So you got pencilers, you got inkers, you got colors, you got people that put different effects on it. So that's basically essentially 4 to 5 positions that you're asking one person to do. And then each one of those positions has their own pay rate. So on the low end, I would say expect to do at least between $100 to $200 a page. And you also want to keep a time frame in mind. You want to get the comic book out as soon as possible, but you don't want to stress somebody out. Everything has deadlines, but I'm just saying, be realistic. Don't ask people to, yeah, I need 6 pages in 2 weeks. Can you do that? And with all those different positions I told you, okay, first I got to sketch it out, get your approval. So then now the ball is back in your court to get it back to me with your edits. It's a time consuming process. So I just want to say, be realistic about the budgeting and be realistic about the timing.
So many people out there, aspiring comic book creators, don't realize that per page, comics cost a lot to make. Yeah. A lot. And so sometimes somebody will reach out to me like, well, how much should I budget? You talk with a lot of creators. How much should I budget for this? And when I tell them, they're like, really? Like, yeah, you want to get paid for your work, and so does the artist you're hiring. Like, don't stiff your artists.
Yeah, because I'm like, if you really believe in this book, it could potentially make you a lot of money. And I'm not saying artists are trying to, bleed you dry, but like you said, it's about time. If you broke that down hourly, it's nothing. It's not even minimum wage. So. Yeah. And you're going to get this money back 10 times fold, and especially if you do a Kickstarter. So maybe you should start with a Kickstarter so you can have a budget to, finagle with someone.
Yeah, that's good advice too, maybe, because a lot of people like to try to have books almost completed, but that's true. If you don't have the funds to kind of self-finance as you go along, having a Kickstarter first so you know what your budget is, and so you can break that down for the artist is good. And that way you know what kind of artist you can hire. Can you hire somebody with lots of experience and expertise? Or can you hire that person who maybe hasn't had a paying job yet, and this is going to be their first job? Then there's nothing wrong with that. But then
Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
People don't think about the different styles. Like there's like the modern, clean, lackadaisical styles. And then there's the DC Superman, Batman styles, like the super high tech guys. You're not going to offer somebody like that. They can produce that. I can't produce that. So you come to me, I'm just going to say, no, I can't do that kind of work. But if you find a guy that way, don't come to him with $70 a page. Yeah, that's just disrespectful.
Yep. I agree. Great advice. Anything else that kind of grinds your gears with clients?
It's just really that thing of time. They just, no matter what it is, if it's character design or graphic design, people, they don't understand the time it takes to produce something. I just want people to be realistic about time.
Yeah. My wife's a photographer, and she, people think she's just out there for an hour or whatever taking pictures. But there's so much editing and stuff that goes on afterwards that people just don't really understand the artistic and creative process. Even I sometimes, I'm like, well, why do you charge so much? Like,
and I used to do that too, photo editing, like restoration of old photos that are almost not there, recognizable anymore. And people don't understand, that's going to cost almost $1,000. I'm like, you gave me a photo from the 1920s that's weathered. Yeah.
That costs money.
Yeah.
Oh, so you started working on a graphic novel. It's with an author. It's on pause right now. But what for maybe artists that are hoping to get hired for comic work? What's harder about approaching a whole comic book versus just doing commissions or doing individual drawings?
Okay, yeah. And so this was going to be my first comic book ever. So I was upfront with the author. I was like, hey, I usually do just one-offs, a picture here or there. I've never done a whole book before. So basically what I would say is just be upfront if this is your first time. And she was totally fine with that. She was like, I love your style. I love the characters you create. I think we can do this together. So we'll just talk about the timing of things and we'll work it out. So that's what I would say. Number one, just be upfront, whether you're a seasoned artist or a first timer, just be upfront. This is what I believe I deserve. This is the way that I work. I work best this way. I don't work best that way. A lot of stress will kind of put me on the back burner because that's the kind of person I am. When it's not fun anymore, which is so sad. But if it's like a job, it's a job. But when it feels like a chore, I can't produce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. I know a lot of a couple come to mind recently in 2021. 2020 was such a big year for indie comics that a lot of people just jumped in. They wanted to make their book that they'd been dreaming of since they were a kid, and they jumped in and they realized how much work it was. And once that work hit them, the passion kind of left. And so I've seen several creators recently who are maybe starting to get a little disillusioned. It feels like a chore to them all of a sudden when it didn't. Before.
Yeah.
And so don't let that happen to you guys out there. Get through it.
Yeah.
So very good. Very, very good. What kind of indie titles are you following right now?
To tell you the truth, I'm not following anything right now. I follow a lot of people. Yeah, no, I'm gonna get to it.
We'll talk about the people. Yeah.
Yeah, I follow a lot of artists, but really with 2020 just trying to keep and maintain a job, that's taking the forefront and everything. So even I have like lists and pages, like I have a notebook here of things that I need to do for Gadgets and Geekery, but I'm just like, by the time I get home from work, I'm so exhausted. That's why I was saying I'm going to take a sabbatical until February to produce any more shows, because I'm just trying to keep my real life together so I can do my fantasy life.
I feel you. Keeping job together. So who do you follow?
Let's see.
People.
The main person that I love is Art Attacks. I don't know if you know who that is.
No, I'll have to look them up.
Yeah, he has a comic that he's producing. He has one before. It's a steampunk, like Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
So maybe that's basically what it is, Red Riding Hood or Riding Hood. I think that's what it is.
I have seen that. I didn't put the name with it, but I have seen that title.
Yeah, and then so he's working on his own project right now. I think it's called Iron. God dog it, I'm gonna mess it up, but that's in the title, Iron. And it's his own original characters. So him and I'm sorry, I'm looking at my comic books because I always forget his name. It's this black anime, The Lost Children of the Diaspora.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think his name is Tommy, and he sent me this a while back. But yeah, Mike Tony. Cool. So those are the main two guys that I'm following right now.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So we've talked a little bit about podcasting. Let's go back to podcasting, because this also 2021 appears to be the year when everybody's going to start a podcast too. I've seen so many indie creators, they're going to start a podcast, they're going to start a show. So let's give them some advice right now. What's the hardest thing about podcasting that you didn't know going into it, other than, it's a lot of work on your own? What else?
I would say coming up with new show ideas. So if you're trying to do a show every week, like I would say come up with just like a brainstorming list of everything that you've ever wanted to talk about. Because I know a lot of people do topical, like right in the moment content, but I'm like, a million people are going to do that at once. Yep. Like Attack on Titans dropped, and then 50,000 people did a podcast on Attack on Titans, or what is it? Neverland. What is it?
Yeah,
it just came out a couple of days ago. But yeah, so whenever new comics drop or new anime drop, everybody runs to give their spin on it. So I'm like, no, let's take a chill. Let's go back to the originals. I want to talk about the old anime. I want to talk to other people about the old anime they may have seen or may not have seen, and we talk about a couple of Netflix shows and break those down. So I kind of go down my own stream with things. But yeah, I'd say come up with a list of topics, so you don't always have to scramble week after week to figure out what it is. I say reach out to people way ahead of time and schedule interviews, and that way you bank shows. So once you want to take a break, even though I'm telling my shit because I haven't did that since I'm trying to take a sabbatical, but yeah, so that way when you're on a sabbatical or a break, then you have shows that you're constantly publishing live, and you want to have at least, I think when I first started back, I had about maybe 15 interviews just sitting in the bank, just waiting to be published live. So I would say that. So just basically have a fail safe for yourself. Line up the shows, line up the guests, line up the topics. Do a lot of research on different platforms, whether it's the streaming platforms or the audio platforms. Try to reach out to people for sponsorships. Try to, I don't know, send your podcast links to a couple of different people that fall within your genre. And hopefully they'll share that information. Yeah. So the list is endless. Like I'm always learning new things every day to get the word out about Gadgets Geekery.
That's very cool. I like the idea of sending links to other people in the genre to hopefully share and enjoy. That's smart. Two questions. One, with interviews, do you find, I sent you a list of questions beforehand because I like to kind of have my own flow. So otherwise I get distracted and I'm like, what should I ask now?
Yeah.
Do you prepare, or I know some people just like to shoot off the cuff and just ask and whatever comes to mind?
I have actually done both. And I'm in a podcasting group on Facebook, and somebody just posted that question, like, should I send my guests the questions? Is it weird that they ask me for the questions? I'm like, it's really up to you at the end of the day. But I know a lot of people don't want to be caught off guard, or they don't want to. I had one guest, he was like, I'm sorry, I'm just taking a lot of time. I was like, don't worry about it. I will cut all of those ums and ahs out. It was like an hour worth. But anyway. But yeah, a lot of people, I ask them, is there anything that you don't want to talk about if I don't send them questions? And a couple who's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that project. I'm no longer affiliated with those people, yada, yada, yada. And then we're good. But I like to do it kind of loose, like it's a conversation. But if they ask, what are we going to talk about? Then I'll, it's on their mind. I don't want them to be nervous, and I send questions.
And then another podcast question. A lot of people, and me too in the beginning, and I know I got a text message while we've been on the air saying my audio is slightly muffled, so that's something I got to figure out. But people get obsessed with equipment and getting the right stuff. What are the basics that you think somebody should start with? The first part of your show is gadgets. So give us a breakdown.
So when I first started, I went to eBay, good old eBay. And I found a mic for $20, and I still have it from 2004, and it's not bad at all. So I would say start cheap, just so you have something. And as you grow, because some people start doing a podcast and they're like, I don't think I really like this. So you don't want to go spend a lot of money and you're never going to use that equipment again. I mean, of course you can sell it, but start small and then grow bigger the longer you stick with it. So I would save a lot of items on my Amazon wish list. So I got this nice little microphone from a follower of mine. I created a wish list and he purchased it for me. I was like, what? It was there in like 2 days. He was like, yeah, you should have a wish list. I was like, nobody's going to buy me shit. And he was like, well, you never know if you don't know. And so I was like, okay, links in the bio. And then he bought this. Yeah. And I started out with the crappy camera on my laptop. We all know the horrible pixels of that. And then you just do it in time, like step by step. And I have like a great camera now. I think I spent $70 on it. So time, it's always about time. Just wait, just chill.
And are you, I hesitate to even ask this question, are you Mac or PC?
I am a PC. And a lot of people was like, what? You're a graphic designer. I'm like, the only time I use a Mac is when I was in college. And I hated Macs the whole time. But, the performance, the speed and all that stuff. But I'm like, nope, I have a laptop with nothing on it but Photoshop and Illustrator. It works just fine.
Now, I like both, but all the dispatch stuff is done on PC because there's so much more free programs you can get on a PC, and open source programs that just work beautifully. I do like the longevity of Macs, but I'm with you. I think like I had a friend a couple years ago who thought he was going to start a podcast, did everything you said not to do, went out and bought all the expensive equipment, bought a Mac, and then decided he didn't like doing it. I think he put out 2 episodes, like.
What was it, like $3,000, $4,000?
Oh, it had to have been at least. It had to have been.
No return.
So I use a PC. In fact, it's a PC that a friend gave me, so it's older, but it's a workhorse and it's wonderful. And I know with the PC I can always upgrade and get the open source programs that run beautifully on it. So thank you for agreeing with me.
Yes.
Oh, so tell us kind of within blerd culture, who you think other people should be following right now.
For one, you, because it's like ever since I started following you, all this new stuff pops up on my feed. I'm like, I didn't even know about that comic book. Follow. I didn't even know about that artist. Follow. So that's been like that untapped well of knowledge and awe, because I was like, these people are beautiful. They're magnificent. I don't have all the money to buy these comics, but I will one day. Head Nerds in Charge. I love them. They have their toe in all the genres, wrestling, everything. I'm just like, how do you guys do all this shit? But it's a little old me. That's why I can't do shit. But I like everybody in the blerd fleet. And there's a couple of cosplayers, and I can never remember everybody's creative handles, but so many. So if you want to know anybody that I adore, just look at the people that I follow on my Instagram. And I can't house everything in here. I'm old.
That's great. So, Q, we're coming to the end of our time. We're almost at that half-hour mark, which is where I like to keep things short and sweet so people out there can then get off of this, remember everything you said, put it into practice, and go follow you if they haven't. So go ahead and tell everybody how to follow you, how to support you. I know you have a Patreon, you have an Amazon wish list. Tell them how to find all that.
Yeah, so basically, if you go to gadgetsandgeekery.com, that's a great jumping off point. Instagram, I basically live there. It's a problem. My husband may have me committed. But yeah, so I have the Patreon. I have like 7 different tiers. 2 of them are business tiers. You can give as little as $3. It just helps me keep the lights on at Gadgets and Geekery. What else? I have a couple of things in my merch over at Gadgets and Geekery. If you want to get a t-shirt, I have the Gadgets and Geekery podcast t-shirts. So just help a sister out. I'm over there. You got any questions? Email me. I should stop giving away free information. I've been told by many people, but hey, if you need a hand or you need some help, let me know.
That's awesome. It sounds like your husband and my wife should maybe start a support group of, hey, I'm married to a nerd podcaster.
Yes, because every other day I'm like, did you watch Wonder Woman yet? Get your ass. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, Q, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I deeply appreciate it. And can't wait to have you back on the show some other point, maybe as a panel guest of artists or something. And thanks again for being here.
No problem. I just wanted to let you know, I let everybody know my favorite 2 white people in the world are you and Brad Pitt. But that's all I want to say.
I wish I was compared favorably to Brad Pitt more often.
Yes. You're 2 fabulous white men. I love it.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. We have a great show coming up Wednesday on Broadcast from the Dispatch. We're going to be hosting a panel on Afrofuturism. John Jennings, Stacey Robinson, Brian Lambert, gosh, we have 5 different guests and my mind's just going blank right now. I should have had it pulled up. But tune in and it's going to be awesome. You've seen below, we also have a Patreon. Sign up and we'll send you stickers. And the first 10 patrons get a physical copy of Representation in Comics, the book produced by Head Nerds in Charge and myself. It's a great read. If you don't follow Q, go follow her right now. Sign up for her Patreon too. Speaking of Patreon, Head Nerds in Charge has a Patreon. Go over to Head Nerds in Charge if you have all the money in the world and sign up. Everybody wants your money. Anyways, we will see you guys next week. Q, thank you again for being here.
No, thank you again.